Hey guys, welcome to at Burner Brother Antiques, and I'm sitting here with an interesting gentleman. This is Mike from Swung. Mike, can you introduce yourself?
Sure.
Tell our viewers who you are.
Sure. My name is Mike. I am from Swung on Instagram, whatnot, and YouTube. I am out of the Indianapolis, Indiana area, just on the northeast side, and I have been collecting and reselling mid-century modern glass primarily for about 5 years.
About 5 years. Okay. Only 5 years?
Yeah.
I thought you had been doing it longer than that.
Well, with anything I do, once I find interest, I typically dive in.
Okay.
And I bought a house in 2019, and my grandmother and I had a very close bond over glass.
Yeah.
And I started filling my house with things that were either nostalgic or just pretty.
Okay, so let's back up. How did you and your grandmother have this relationship over glass? Tell us about that. What is that?
She herself is an artist, and
okay.
My whole dad.
Is she still alive?
She isn't.
Okay.
No. She passed a few years ago.
Okay.
And before she had passed, I wasn't able to buy my house while she was still alive, unfortunately. But I always kind of wanted to be able to have my home be very similar to my childhood upbringing home, which was very eclectic, filled with artists, always had somebody inside, whether it's relatives or friends or neighbors, it was just a very lively place.
Yeah.
So lots of color, and just a very fun place for a child to be raised.
Okay.
So
that's your childhood home. That's what you're describing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when I started filling up my house with things, obviously I have some things from my family that's art that I'm hanging on the wall, some things from myself that I've done over time that I'm happy enough with to put on the walls.
Right.
And then I just start seeing little trinkets, like either one of the glass insulators, like the turquoise glass insulators.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was like, that is so cool. I love that turquoise color of glass, and I want to turn that into like a little nightlight. So I did, and I took this little piece of wood and drilled into it and put a little light in it, and bang, had like a little...
Okay, when did you do that? When are we talking?
That was 2019.
In 2019?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's right when you first started with glass. That's one of the first things you did.
Yeah. I didn't even know what the thing was. I just liked it.
You liked the color. You was drawn into it. Okay.
And so I then saw something that was created for that exact purpose, but nearly 100 years ago, and it was a fairy lamp or fairy light.
Right.
And I was like, that's cool. And I saw a couple of them in different colors, like clear or amber. And then I saw a blue one, and I'm like, ooh, I like that. And it's like $5. Cool. I'll take a risk on it.
Take a risk. Yeah.
And so, I buy this fairy lamp and I put it on my front lawn or my front porch and have it outside and I'm using it. And, fast forward a couple weeks, months, I'm seeing these things online for $40, $50, and I'm seeing them in flea markets and antique malls around my area for a fraction of that. And I'm like...
So this is in 2019.
That's in 2019.
Okay. And now you've become this you're well swung. Like you've got this following. You sell massive glass. You were just selling you'll sell glass for multiple thousands, and you'll sell $10 glass. Like it's anywhere between.
Absolutely. And I didn't start with swung vases. It was just I passed up swung vases.
Right. I passed up hundreds of them in my life.
That's what I'm
saying. I
feel
horrible about it now.
It's one of those things that it just doesn't stick until it does.
Yeah.
I walked by them many times, and then one time I remember flipping through some postcards. I was thinking about my grandma, and I picked up a set of postcards for her in Seattle at the Chuli Museum.
Yeah.
And I'm flipping through them, and I'm like, oh man, this garden scene where it has these beautiful glass rods coming out of the ground, and it looks almost organic but alien and but so beautiful when the light hits. And I'm like, that kind of looks like one of those things I saw at the flea market for like $5, and it was like 2 feet tall and red. And so I went back, and sure enough, it was there, and it was a swung vase. And I was like, dude, those would look great in a grouping. And so I started collecting them. I started, amassing all these different colors and shapes, and then I start reaching out to people for information. What is this? What is this pattern? I start buying books, catalogs, looking on, so it was just kind of a spiral.
Just spiraled right into it.
Yeah. And
okay, how many do you have now, right now?
Now
in your collection,
I've whittled down to under 100. But over the last 2 months, I've sold about 200.
So you're up to about 300. You've sold a couple hundred of them all.
And I mean, over the last couple of years, I didn't start to buy and resell. I bought to collect. So I had a ton of stuff, and then people are like, dude, you have that, and I was like, okay, I do. I should start thinning out.
Thin it down a little bit.
And then that's when Swung became a thing. It was like, I was joking with one of my friends. So
did you start Swung to sell your Swung vases as like the theme of it? That's how the name came?
Yeah. That's how,
so interesting.
Yeah, that was, I believe, 2021, maybe the winter of 2021 or something like that.
Okay.
And that's when I actually took on the name. I had a friend who I'd reach out to all the time about patterns, and we became comrades through glass. And I went to his shop, and I said, hey man, I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna call myself this. And he's like, it's clever. And I was like, okay, I'll take that.
That's great cue.
It's good enough
that's
for
good
me.
Enough.
So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And, I never have really promoted myself very hard in any platform.
Right.
I don't like to put out content just to put out content. If I do it, I would like it to have some kind of artistic or entertainment value. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people who put out just something every day or a couple things every day, and it's just kind of like, man, I see you. All right, cool, man, I see you.
Right.
And I just don't want to be. I didn't want to be like that, and I don't want to be like that. So I try to, if I'm putting something out, at least it's good and thought through.
Okay. You take the opposite approach to me. I got a camera with me. I'm like, hey guys, what do we got going on here? So, hey, there's what Burner Brothers are doing today. But that's really cool. We got that entertainment value. People just laugh at us and make fun of us, which I love it.
And you guys are great at it. And I subscribe. You know.
So
what I mean?
See, that works out perfect.
Right.
That's funny. You said something. I want to back up. Chuli Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's when you picked up the postcard.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about Chuli? Our viewers, some of these guys are going to say, what do they mean? What is Chuli? You want to talk about that a minute?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, I'm not incredibly well versed, but Dale Chuli is a Polish artist, glass artist who...
He says he's not well versed. Listen.
He currently is like a living master. I think many people would agree with that.
Would you say almost like when Picasso was alive, Picasso, I remember this, would sign his restaurant bills by a quick drawing, and they would rather have the drawing than an actual paid bill. He's that good.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
I would do any kind of work in his hot shop for any extended amount of time for him to just gift me one of the pairs of shoes that he would wear in the glass hot shop that he would be walking on and were like molten and broken and burnt through.
This guy, if you don't know who Chuli is, guys, look him up, and he is absolutely right. And I say Picasso because I believe that his stuff is going to explode in price. It always happens,
I can't even fathom what some of those huge installations, I mean, they will be priceless if they're not already considered priceless. Like in Indianapolis at the Children's Museum, there's a huge installation with I don't know how many hundreds of pieces of glass that are all intricately engineered to be on a pedestal that is sound and then also able to be cleaned multiple times by people who aren't
used to glass or anything.
Right. And they're working, they don't just hire anybody to do it either. They are going to be somebody who works around
They are
glass.
professionals.
But even on that level, you're working on the Sistine Chapel at that point, something of that level.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I wanted to go back to Chuli. When you said that you were at the museum, I was like, you got to explain that, because a lot of our viewers are going to learn this for the first time as you're sharing. And something I picked up with Mike now, a couple times I've been around him and I've watched his show a few times. The knowledge base that he has is massive. He's very, he's saying you don't really know much, whatever. That's not true. He's really, really versed in what he does. But I want to also back up to another comment you made. So you still haven't spoken to this relationship with Grandma on Glass.
Sure.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that? Is that all right?
Yeah, so she was just a big fan of Chuli, and she's the one who introduced me.
So she was a Chuli fan. Did she collect Chuli too?
No, she's not that high end.
Okay, so she was just a fan.
Yeah, big fan. I've had the opportunity to buy one piece of Chuli, and this was in 2019 when I first started collecting, and I didn't have anywhere close to the amount of money
that it
would have taken to buy that one little piece that I could fit in my hands. It's not even a large piece. Just
so Grandma admired Chuli.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And she did a lot of like Native American inspired clay artwork and pottery and things of that nature. So very colorful and lively, and she would always have a story to go along with her pieces.
Right.
And I think she was very much just not only just like a huge appreciator, but she was just like, wow, like how can this man do these things with hot molten glass? Like just
she admired the artistic the work, right? The process. Fascinated.
I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just beautiful work. And she was also like a gentle soul. She was also like, she met Muhammad Ali.
Really?
And when she was still well and like still had like pep to her and stuff. And like they have a picture together, and like she has her hand on his knee, like all. I was like, dang, Grandma,
that's Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, but she would talk about how he was just such a gentle human, and she would just talk about people and how they're very kind, and that was something that always rang true with her.
Yeah,
and I think she also looked at him as somebody who she saw a good soul. Yeah, like
it's important.
Yeah,
I love that. I love being associated and doing business with people that I feel that way. That they have a good spirit about them, good soul, and I get peace with it. I don't know. It's interesting, this whole YouTube experience that I'm going through right now, and how I meet new people, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good soul, good person.
Sure.
I want to be involved with that person. So that's really cool. I love that. So I want to back you up one more time. Mm-hmm. What's the first thing you ever collected in your life?
Probably sports cards.
Sports cards. Okay.
I mean,
no, seriously,
like
you're
things,
feeling them and collecting them. And
now, would you something that I would collect that with my own money, or things like
as a
from
kid,
childhood,
like a childhood
like
thing?
He-Man.
Yeah. Okay.
He-Man. Like I was huge on He-Man.
Okay.
Like just little weird, like monsters and like bugs,
and just so all sorts of little things.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite? Everybody always has one that was like really special to them, or that stood out. I feel like that's how we all get the bug. We started into collecting that little thing, whether Star Wars, He-Man, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean He-Man, and then like sports cards and stuff. Like grew up in a Chicago Bears family, so like Walter Payton was big, and like Chicago Cubs.
Perry, there we go.
But yeah, so I don't know. I can't say that.
So when was the very So as a kid, you obviously you had He-Man collection, you had the baseball cards, or the sports cards, if anything.
Sure.
And then eventually, over time, you bought your first item for collecting, not just reselling.
Mm-hmm.
But how old were you when you did that?
Well, probably it was still probably sports cards, and I was probably like 14 or 12 to 14
so cool.
when I was able to have a job or go out and do things to make money. I remember at one point I really wanted a Christian Leitner card, man.
Yeah.
From Duke, like they were big that year.
They were big.
And it was like, looking back, I mean, I saved money, man. I walked down to the card shop with change, like a bag of
I've got
change.
my money, I want this card.
I remember putting it up on the counter, and this guy looking at me like
what is
that's
this,
what
kid?
you want?
Oh wow, that's so awesome. That's so awesome.
You want the Christian Leitner card?
But that's what I mean. Like, even as a kid, you develop a passion to collect. I don't understand how it works. I'm amazed by it. But everybody I talk to that's in this business, almost every person is started when they were a teenager or younger, even collecting something or having I would say, recognizing value in artistic work or something that they wanted to have, and put on their shelves or whatever.
Okay, well, I'll give you a weird one here.
Okay, let me have it. What we got?
My grandpa on my mom's side.
Okay.
He was somebody who was very much like myself, who was like, once you find something you like, you get into it, or you're interested in it, and you just dive in. He learned once about chinchillas, and like
chinchillas. Okay.
So I don't know if the initial premise was to breed them to sell them for coats or what. I don't know.
Don't know.
But I think probably. And so what happened is, I remember as a child going down to the basement and there being cages and cages of chinchillas, and they just being so cool. And then I remember them just being there forever, and like then being given away to family members and things. So I think he got to the point where he realized what the whole process was, and then just couldn't go through with it. But with that being said, so there was chinchillas, and then there was at one point there was airbrushing, and then there was woodworking, and and
each one of these things he was just all in.
Right.
I'm going to learn everything about it, master it, or come close to that kind of fulfillment level, then go to the next thing.
Yeah, and so that's on my mom's side.
So you inherited this.
So I did inherit it from two different sides too, so it's really weird. But yeah, I think like I'm sorry, what I was trying to get back to, there was something that I was trying to tie into my grandpa. Just doing anyhow. Well, okay, so I got lost.
That's all good. So it's so interesting.
It was a good point.
It was a good point.
It was something that was.
We might get it though. We're not done.
Yeah, it was something so cool.
So interesting how I see when I talk with people like this. I just try and pick up on that passion, where it got started, how it got started, and then all the way fast forward now. So we learned a little bit there as a kid. You started.
I got it. I found it.
It's back.
I found it.
Let's hear it.
All right. So something else that I have collected / done on crazy scale for whatever reason, I also will start to, when you go through different groups of friends, Kate can probably appreciate this. When you go through different friends,
Kate's watching and
she's right here.
Fun of this.
I'm caught up on the chinchillas. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a weird story.
It's a weird story, isn't it? The chinchilla. She's all in right now. Her jaw is dropped. What?
When you go through groups of friends, I moved around a lot. So I lived in Michigan City until I was 7, and then moved down to Indianapolis when I was 8, and lived there until I was 18. But then moved around the country and went to California, and I lived in Australia for a little bit, and I've been I've gone through different groups of friends.
Sure.
And you learn to appreciate people for who they are, and it's like a two-way street. You don't want to just say, okay, this is who I am and this is what I do, and cool, all right, let's do all the things I want to do. No, you learn about other people, and you're okay, I don't really go hiking, but yeah, I'll go hiking. Sure. I want to go. I like nature. I like animals, but I'm not into I got my Camelback and let's go on a 50-mile hike. I'm not about it.
Right.
But I will if somebody else is, right?
Right.
So for a point, I got into tarantulas.
Tarantulas. Okay.
Live tarantulas. Now,
tarantulas.
Do I let these things crawl on me? No. But my homeboy, who was into them at the time, he did, and he had one or two, and he's like, oh man, this thing is so cool, and it's rad, and it's sick. And I'm like, dude, it actually is kind of sick. I don't want to hold it, but it's cool to look at.
That's
and
so funny.
It's this kind of bond that you create with somebody.
Yeah.
It's this...
Well, it's relationship, right? I mean, I think in human nature, our desire is to be friends with people
and connect
and connect.
And it's I'm putting forth effort to show interest in what you're into,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's not a force thing. It's okay, you're a Ford dude,
right?
Okay, cool, man. I'm not just gonna start driving a Ford because you do, and I want to be your friend. I'm a Chevy dude, whatever.
Right.
And that's just an example.
Right.
I don't really care about cars, but
he cares about glass.
I do care about glass. But yeah, so it's just okay, so there was that. And then at one point, I went to school for zoology for a while. So I have little urges to be immersed in nature or explore or do things. So when I got back, when I moved back from San Diego to Indianapolis,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I went to a reptile show, a trade show.
Okay.
And I'm like, let's go see
Go
what's...
check out some reptiles.
Yeah, man, because, they don't have the pet stores in Indianapolis like they do in San Diego. You can go to San Diego and there's a pet store that's got tarantulas, and it's got all the fish you could ever think of, and it's got like weird little like Neocaridina shrimp, which are awesome, and all kinds of weird stuff. You can't find that in Indianapolis, so you have to go to the reptile show. Well, I go and I'm like, dude, I've always loved dart frogs, and I've always wanted to own one.
A dart frog.
I'm gonna buy a dart frog. And so they're like these little tiny thumbnail-sized frogs that are super crazy colors, like metallic green and bright blue with yellow and black, and they're awesome.
You can tell Mike likes colors, right? I mean,
Yeah, I am basically a walking dart frog.
a walking dart frog. Now we got a new nickname. Mike Swung, the walking dart frog. That's funny.
Which is crazy. Blanco makes a water bottle, their 384, which is a limited edition that I just picked up on my travels.
Okay.
That matches this.
Really?
It is called the Dart Frog bottle.
And it's called that.
And I picked one up.
That is so cool.
And two of them are called Salamander.
Okay.
That I picked up, and they're like a variation. So this is all tying in. But the Dart Frog, I start with one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I've read everything there is about these, and it seems like they're pretty easy to breed. I think I'm going to start breeding dart frogs.
No.
So then I have an entire room, like an entire bedroom full of aquariums, decked out, all live plants, moss, pools, with probably 10 to 12 different species of dart frogs.
How many dart frogs did you get up to?
Oh, over 100.
Over 100. Out of nowhere.
Over 100 easily.
So
Santa Isabel dart frogs, mind you, breed very, very aggressively, and they are prolifically, I should say, not aggressively, prolifically, and they're very loud. So after having about 100 Santa Isabels in your bedroom, yeah.
it was time to get rid. Do you still have them? No.
No.
But they've influenced you now. They're influencing your glass buying.
And so this is the thing that all wraps up with my grandpa, man. So he had the chinchillas, and he ended up giving them away because he didn't want to sell them after he started breeding them, because it's like the morality thing. I didn't want to start selling the dart frogs, man. I had so
you
many.
couldn't get rid of them. You couldn't sell them.
I had to give them to somebody who sold them. I had to give them to the dart frog supplier that I bought them from, dude.
Say,
like,
look, I bought two, and here's 100 back, but I can't handle it.
Here, I spent a bunch of money with you. Here's all that money and more back to your business, and have fun with them. Like,
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
But man, I really enjoyed it while I did it. It was a lot of entertainment, and with even reselling antiques or glass or a bangle. Like right now I'm wearing this. One day I may sell it, and the price that I get for it, dude, I've already worn it. It's used now. So it's like, cool, even if it goes up in value, I've already gotten my use out of it. So somebody says, oh man, I bought it for $10. I gotta get 10 out of it. Dude, you've already worn it. It's like, you've gotten enjoyment. Anyhow,
okay,
I'm on my soapbox.
So tell us about the dice. What's going on with all this dice?
So that's wild. That is just a couple months old.
Okay, yeah, but it's like it's the thing now.
Well, I can tell you why. And the person who's
IBK, right?
yeah, so it's called IBK.
IBK.
And the person who is the inspiration behind it all won't take credit for it. But yeah, a friend of mine who you all know, Kate from Follow That Bug, who's just on the other side of the camera. I met her in September of this last year, and coincidentally, serendipitously, and we became friends, and she would consistently wear a dice bracelet, a red one, and I noticed it, and I was like, cool, cool style, whatever. I've worn this black bracelet that's just like actually a rubber gasket for some kind of, I don't know, motor. and then one that my friend made at the Electric Forest. So I had these two on when I met her, actually, and then, you know, it's kind of evolved, as you can see. But I always noticed that she had that one on, and all the people in her chat would ask her about it and where'd she get it, and, oh, are you going to run that? And she's like, no, not for sale.
Not for
Nifis.
sale. It's Nifis.
So I was like, I knew she was coming to town to visit so we could create some content and I could show her around to some of the honey holes. I was like, I'm going to surprise her with a dice bracelet. It can't be that hard. So
How long did it take you to make the first one?
Actually, the first one, it did take a while because I had to figure it out, and I didn't have any of the technique, and I actually lost feeling in my fingers, like these 3 fingers, for
Just holding the dice
a couple of weeks because I was
drilling,
holding
or what
this.
was you doing there?
I had that thing pinned down, man. I had it pinned down. I was drilling into it, and it's just, they make tools. They make tools that you can buy that make things easier for your life. So save your fingers, save your eyes, save your nose. Wear a mask, wear glasses when you're doing things with power tools. But because I drilled into my fingers many times, I've saved them now. But so I made the bracelet, and she showed up, and I gave it to her, and she was stoked. She was happy about it. She's like, oh, wait, you made this? I was like, yeah. She's like, can you make more? I was like, sure. She's like, people will buy those. It's like, okay. So it wasn't my idea.
Yeah.
It was her idea. I was just capable of doing it. I was able to execute the idea.
So how many have you made up to date?
It's in the hundreds.
In the hundreds
now.
Okay.
But I also, like I said, I dive into things and I just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a period that's all I did.
You're just making bracelets every day.
That's all I did. I was on a 16-hour shift because what do you do for 8 hours? You sleep and you shower and whatever.
You're making
else.
necklaces now too, right?
I've made a couple. I've made a couple few.
So if somebody wants to purchase one of those, what do they have to do? Do they have to buy one off a Whatnot auction, or do they?
Yeah. So far, I have done strictly Whatnot auctions. Let me rephrase that. I have sold one on Knickknacks through auction.
Okay.
I've done one on Knickknacks, buy it now, from somebody, who had asked about one being made for them.
Okay.
And then, but yes, primarily it's going to be Whatnot. I do auction them. I start them at $1. I will give you a multiple choice kind of platform to where I'll give you 9 options, and it'll be kind of something for everybody. And
do you have a lot of fun with it? You sell them, and, and they kind of go to the highest bidder. What kind of ranges do they normally bring?
They typically will go for $40 to $60 to $70 for one that is modern. Mm-hmm. And when I say modern, it's one that is currently being produced.
Okay.
Now, a lot of my dice come from Germany. They're very well made.
Okay.
They are.
And you use dice.
Quality.
You use dice from not just 1 through 6 die, but I seen you have Dungeons and Dragons, and you're using different kinds of dice too, not just just a black and white dice. You're getting into some fun pieces.
Yeah.
And you name them.
I do.
Okay, so tell me about the naming thing. Why do you name them?
Well,
what happened there?
With there being so many different kinds and there being so many different colors, and being from an artistic, creative background. And also having built brands in the past, you want to create value for your end buyer. You want people to be happy with your end product that you put out. And I also want to be prideful of
absolutely.
what I'm putting out. So
Sure.
I could just drill dice, string them up, and put them in Buy It Now, and just be like, there you go.
There you go.
Or I could be like, hey, look at all these different options. Look at why this one's awesome, and let me tell you about it. This is my mindset on when I made this color scheme. I'm nostalgic this, I'm 90s this, I'm XYZ. So I think that adds value. You get the creative input to your piece, and then it's like, all right, I'm living in the moment right now. I just sold you something. You just bought it from me. I feel like I still owe you something. How about an individual personalized name for your piece coming from the artist, publicly broadcast to everybody? And it could have been named anything. It could have been named Grape. It could have been named Flashlight. could have been named something incredible. You don't know what's gonna pop out, and it could be random. It could be something specifically for the bracelet, but it's just about the experience, man. It's about
what I love what Mike is sharing is this is an artist at work. And when he's talking about naming and he's making the dice, his heart, his passion, his soul is all going into this, and that's what he's sharing. And I think that's probably even relates to the communication you were talking about earlier, the bonds, the friendships. It's like you just don't want to give somebody something. It's got to be personal. You're trying to make it personal, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
even just
I really
with my
appreciate
post on
that.
Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, again, there was a post that I made with Kate when she was in town that took effort. It's like, but it was 1,000% worth it. It's like the thing, I'm not just gonna, we could have done something and been like, okay, cool, we had a great night of sales and like, thanks, with a thumbs up, and this is one item that we sold. Or we could wrap and package everything, and then we can create massive pyramids of packages out on my front porch, and I could be feeding her lucite grapes.
That's even better.
That's over the top. It's crazy. But that was only available to happen at that one point in time. And if
Right.
you're not able to capture it, or if you don't think about it, you know, and it slips by. So it's like those are the things I want to put out there. I don't want to just put out, here's my $10 off coupon for Whatnot, which is effective. You can do that with just graphics. I would rather you see a crazy picture of us doing something awesome, or a beautiful piece of glass without me even in the picture. Like, look at this piece of glass. Oh my God, it's so awesome. And that's what this post is about. And then at the very bottom, hey, check me out on Whatnot, because that's where I sell it. Like,
Yeah.
It's not about me and me trying to sell it. It's about the item and where this came from and the history behind it. Although I'm not like a huge history buff, I try to absorb what I can that I'm interested in.
Sure. Well, guys, listen, we appreciate you watching. This is so cool because we have Mike here from Swung, and you heard his introduction. He needs no more. Now you know his story. So we're going to go on a little bingo, blacklight bingo here with Kate, and my wife is here. We're going to have some fun. So watch out for that, too. And if you guys want to join Mike's show, just subscribe to his channel. Get on Whatnot, subscribe. Instagram, YouTube.
Yep.
Where are you at again?
So
Instagram, YouTube,
Instagram
Whatnot.
is well.swung, and then I believe Whatnot is well_swung. And then if you type in, I think, well swung into the search bar on YouTube, I think I do pop up now.
Okay.
So I want to say thank you to everybody who is watching, who has supported me in the past. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining me on my adventures, and I do look forward to putting out more content. I hope you enjoy.
That's awesome.
I'm looking forward to 2024 because it's just starting,
It's
and
just
there's
starting.
so much to do.
It's going to be great. Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. It was
Thanks
a
for
pleasure.
having me.
Oh, it's awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching. Blessings, everybody.